Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about St. Louis City SC, and you knew I have to talk about St. Louis after that remarkable feat that they did over the weekend, becoming the first MLS expansion team to win their first 4 games in their expansion season. Yes, not even LAFC or Atlanta United or even the Seattle Sounders when they had that remarkable 2009 season started the season 4-0 in their life in MLS. Now, I know there's going to be some naysayers that said, well, they play relatively easy opponents so far in their first 4 games, and there's been a lot of goals that they've scored that have been really lucky, whether it's like the deflection or just their opponent cannot step back passing to them that lead them to score a goal. And while that, of course, has been the case, I don't think it's a fluke. I do think that this team legitimately is a very good expansion team and could be on point of the similar expansion feat that we saw with the past couple year of expansion team have done, like LAFC, Atlanta United, and even Nashville SC, which is an expansion season that people forgot that they also had an incredible expansion season, making the playoffs and even winning a playoff game. And that I know it is still early, but unless they have an FC Cincinnati collapse, which I remember in 2019 when FC Cincinnati had a good start and then it just kind of went downhill from them. I do think this team could be the next team to make it to the playoffs in their expansion season. Now, looking at the season so far, in the first 4 games, well, in the first ever game, they won 3-2 in that one against Austin FC, and it was a come from behind resort too, because after taking the 1-0 lead, they allow Austin to score the next 2 goals, and we've seen this before where so many expansion team when that happens, it feels like it's game over. Like it feel like that's pretty much it. They had a good run, but it seems like they just don't have the experience to overcome that adversity. No, they scored two goals and basically turned this game on its head to win 3-2 in that one. And again, obviously, everybody will not forget the Kip Keller moment, the bad back pass to his former teammate Jared Shroud that kind of started the comeback. But I definitely will not question in terms of Joe Klaus finish and how amazing that finish was. One of the best goal that we see so far this season. And yeah, that gets them a remarkable start and also becoming the first expansion team since LAFC to win their first ever game as an expansion team. Now, in the very next game, in their home opener, they were down again in that one. They were down 1-0. It could have been easy for them to, just kind of fall off and stuff like that, just like what we saw with Charlotte when they went down 1-0 and that, they just never able to come from behind to get the win. Nope, St. Louis did that. They won 3-1 in that one. And then in the very next game, this was really probably the first big test because, so far when you look at, I mean, the Austin one is definitely a big test, but you can argue, it's an it's a debut and that the players are definitely going to give it all and stuff like that. But this really is a big test with the way that not many opponent has been able to go to Portland and able to get all 3 points. And again, this is a game where they face adversity once again, going 1-0 down just 3 minutes in. Many teams would have just crack under the pressure and that they probably lose that game. Nope, it's not the case. St. Louis is able to come from behind to win 2-1 in this one. You start getting the pattern. The fact that this team, there's a lot of resilience that this team has. And I think early on, I can kind of compare it to what Austin FC did last season. Where remember Austin FC last season, so many times they find themselves behind, but yet they somehow find that resilience and that belief that they can come back game after game. And it feels like that's kind of something we're seeing at least in the early part of St. Louis season. And really the only time when they actually had a game where there was no drama and kind of relatively the play a game with ease is against the San Jose Earthquakes in the last game when they won 3-0 in that one. Though I will say that, the Quakes, they did put some early pressure on the St. Louis side, but again, it just feels like adversity does not phase this team. This is a team that has players that believe that, oh, we're down 1-0. So what? We're just gonna come back and potentially score 2 or 3 goals to eventually get all 3 points. Now, in terms of the goal scored so far for St. Louis, Shell Klaus leads the team with 3 goals, and he has everything and then some for St. Louis City. I mean, we talk about how he could definitely be a 10-plus goal scorer player in this league, and I think St. Louis has got a really decent DP number 9 in him. I don't think in their wildest dream that they expected this kind of version of Joe Klaus. He has been everything that St. Louis thought that he was going to be, and then some, and have been scoring some incredible goals for the St. Louis team. And then you got Jared Stroud, a guy that has been kind of the forgotten man at Austin FC, and the guy that's kind of bounced around with a couple of expansion teams. He's starting to find himself have a good run with St. Louis with 2 goals. Then you got Nico Giacchini with 1 goal, Kyle Hebert with 1 goal, and Edouard Lupin with 1 goal. Thomas Ostrich scoring the last game with 1 goal, and then Tim Parker. That's a name that St. Louis City fans will remember for a very long time, and can be a good name to put up a trivia question. Who is actually the player that scored the first ever goal for St. Louis City? The answer is Tim Parker against Austin FC. Now, in terms of the assist leaders so far, we only have 4 players that have registered assists. Their top assist leader is Edouard Leuven, and this is not a big surprise because we knew that Edouard Leuven was going to be that playmaker. He was going to be that deep line playmaker, and really started now becoming one of the best deep line playmaker that we've seen so far this season, and he has registered 3 assists, followed by Rasmus with 1 assist, Joe Klaus with 1 assist, and I didn't write the total for Giacchini, but he also has 1 assist to start his life with St. Louis City. Now, looking at the last 5 expansion team through the first 4 games, because I want to compare how this remarkable feat that St. Louis does compare to the last 5 expansion team that have come into the league through their first 4 games. And you notice again, there are some teams that kind of got off to a slow start, and then there, of course, is FC Cincinnati, which I'll get to. But last year we saw Charlotte FC in their expansion season. They went 1-0-3, and their first win didn't came until the 4th game against the New England Revolution. So they could have easily gone the first 4 games without a win. Austin FC, of course, started their life in MLS with a 2-0-2 record. They did get their first win in their second game when they won against the Colorado Rapids on the road. Inter Miami, yeah, I know everybody know about Inter Miami and of how much of a disastrous expansion season that they start. I mean, they win, I think, their first 5 games without a win. Though again, I put an asterisk there because of the fact that it came during the pandemic, and again, I do feel bad for teams that did came in their inaugural season during the pandemic with the way that there was just so much chaos that it has happened. But I think Nashville fan was basically saying that yeah, maybe that's just kind of an excuse because Inter Miami falter, and also the asterisk is basically including MLS's back tournament game because Inter Miami was in it. Nashville, of course, wasn't because of the COVID outbreak that they had, and they had to withdraw from the tournament. They started the season with a 1-1-2 record, and that the first win it came against FC Dallas, and that was a very unlikely victory because coming into that game, they haven't played in like three months. And even though they were playing against a team that also haven't played 3 months, because FC Dallas was another team that withdrew from the tournament because of a COVID outbreak that happened within the team. The fact that they were able to do that and go on the road in the first game since the pause and get a victory, that was very impressive for Nashville OSC and starting the season with 4 points. And then we talk about FC Cincinnati. As I mentioned, FC Cincinnati is an example where maybe some people will point out that, yes, St. Louis has had an incredible start, but are they going to continue this incredible start, or they're going to look like another FC Cincinnati? Because we said for the first 4 games, like if I would have made a video similar to this with FC Cincinnati, talk about how they could be a playoff team, yeah, I would have been looking like a fool. And basically, this video might have just kind of curse them in a way. And I do apologize to St. Louis fans if I make this video and this might be used as a jinx, and next thing you know, they started to fall off the map. But that's kind of the case for Cincinnati. 2-1-1 to start the season with 7 points. It was an incredible start in their expansion season, and then it just falls apart in the remaining part of the game. But like I said, I do think that compared to Cincinnati to what St. Louis has done, I feel like St. Louis is sustainable. And I think it's important to note that, yes, they have had these fortunate goals. How many of that is because of the system that they play? And, this is kind of the thing that I've said about St. Louis when they came into the league, where I do have a feeling they could have a decent season and that they're already kind of a step ahead of everybody, where they have an identity of using this kind of energy drink soccer that Bradley Carnell brought from the New York Red Bulls. And that's kind of something that, a lot of expansion teams, they usually don't have an identity coming out of sort of, they just want to test the water and see exactly what kind of team that they have. But this St. Louis team have already had that identity to begin with. Now, obviously, with that identity that they had, there is always a guarantee that it does not work whatsoever. But I do think that the reason why it has kind of worked is because of the fact that it feels like the players know exactly what they need to do, and I think that just kind of also attribute to the chemistry and also the belief and the tactical set point that this team has already have, where it just kind of give them an advantage that we haven't seen expansion team has done before, and I think that maybe can has surprised a lot of people where maybe people will have taken St. Louis like maybe just another expansion team, and then they don't realize that yeah, this is a team that does not look like an expansion team and look like a team that have already have an identity from the ground up and are definitely distribute that so far. Now, when you look at the next 10 games and you wonder how long is this incredible run is going to end. Now, obviously, this perfect run eventually is going to come to an end. I mean, we have never had a season in MLS history where someone go the entire season without a loss and go in an invincible season like what we saw with Arsenal in the Premier League back in 2004. But yeah, they eventually are going to suffer their first loss, and that the next game that they have playing against RSL, that should be an interesting one because RSL they're a team that I feel like between St. Louis and RSL they kind of are very similar with the way that RSL is kind of a team that has that self belief that they can grind out a resort, and that they always believe the philosophy that the team is the star, and that also knowing the fact that going on the road against RSL, a place that not many teams have been able to get victory unless your name is Austin FC. That could be an interesting test for St. Louis to, of course, play, and not to mention playing in altitude. That could be a factor too. Then they, of course, return to play against Minnesota United, and Minnesota so far this season, they have done well on the road. I mean, they won their first two game on the road. They're a team that seems like it's a very tough team to beat because of that grind out approach. So we'll see whether or not if St. Louis can win that one too. But then the first big test, I think, will be April 8th. This is going to be the one that I think, if you look at all these games and which one I can see, maybe they'll lose their first game. It's probably the Seattle Sounders. And, the Seattle Sounders, yes, I know so far, they did drew in that game against LAFC. And after kind of an incredible start that they had in the first two games, they have dropped off a little bit. But I do think that it's going to be a really big task for St. Louis to go into Seattle to get a reserve. But that being said, I said the same thing about Portland, and they were able to get a victory there too. Then they of course return home in another tough test too. I mean, after Seattle, they got FC Cincinnati, and again, this is where again some of those naysayers saying about the fact that they have an easy run to the schedule, and when you look at all these teams, most of these teams hasn't really got off to a good start that they have faced. Now that they're going to be really starting to be tested when they do face some of the top tier team like Seattle and Cincinnati. And they do have a relatively easy one against the Colorado Rapids, who are just falling apart in the first part of the season. Then they play against the Portland Timbers again at home, or once again going on the road to play against FC Dallas and the Chicago Fire. And while that game against Chicago might sound easy, again, it feels like maybe that's kind of a little bit of a bragging right kind of game. Again, I know, coming into this season. If in terms of rivalry sake, their next game is after the Chicago one is the rivalry game with St. Louis and Sporting KC being rival. But I would argue Chicago might be a rival too, because when you look at sports in general, and you look at the NFL, well, actually not the NFL. That is, don't want to upset any St. Louis fan, but just look at the MLB and the NHL. There's always a rivalry between those baseball teams, the Cubs and the Cardinals and the Blackhawks and the Blues, and why not have the same thing in MLS in a rare occasion when both of those teams each other again. But obviously, again, the true rivalry is going to be the one against Sporting KC at home, and then they, of course, once again play at home again against the Vancouver Whitecaps. So, yeah, when I look at that schedule, I mean, yes, there are some tough games, but I would not be surprised that this team can go in their next 10 games, and I wouldn't be surprised that they might only lose like one or two out of those games because of a remarkable run that they have started this season. And again, if you would have told me that this team would be leading the Supporter Shield race after 4 weeks and after a month into the season, I would have think you were absolutely out of your mind. And that here we are. It is incredible of what St. Louis, of course, has done. And let's see whether or not if they can keep this up as we head into to April in the MLS season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for this video. Talk about St. Louis' remarkable start to the season. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? And let me know in the comments below, how far can St. Louis go this season, and when exactly will they do eventually suffer their first loss of the season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.